When Richard Avedon died on October 1st, 2004, his obituary in the New York Times said that his fashion and portrait photographs helped define America's image of style, beauty, and culture for the last half-century. His style was characterized by his ability to capture his subjects in a candid yet elegant way, revealing their innermost emotions and personalities. He was a master at capturing the essence of his subjects and presenting them in a way that challenged notions of beauty and glamour. It was back in 1979 when he set out to document the American West. Avedon visited nearly 200 communities to chronicle often ignored and overlooked people who worked at hard, uncelebrated jobs. What came of this series was a collection of portraits featuring cowboys, miners soaked in oil, truckers, farmers, drifters, and skilled laborers. He visited and traveled through state fair, rodeos, carnivals, coal mines, oil fields, slaughterhouses, and prisons to find his subjects. The project lasted for 5 years, and out of the 775 memorable portraits within the landmark series, none of them got the attention quite like the photo of Ronald Fisher, the beekeeper. Avedon had begun working as a photographer in 1944 for a department store, but by 1946 he began creating images for magazines such as Life and Vogue. Not long after, he became the chief photographer for Harper's Bazaar. He had a storied career marked with a style that featured his subjects posing emotionless and unresponsive. Although this wasn't always the case, it was certainly what he became known for. In his time, he photographed a who's who of fame and personality, and his reputation as a photographer became far-reaching. He photographed many public figures such as Buster Keaton, Marilyn Monroe, Dwight D. Eisenhower, and Andy Warhol, to name a few. Fisher came about this project while reading a Beekeeper's magazine. Although not initially shocked that there is even such a thing as a magazine dedicated to beekeeping, in that magazine ran an ad seeking a man or woman to be photographed by a world-famous photographer. Well, Fisher always wanted to make a bee beard in which swarms of bees gather on one's face, attracted by a caged queen bee worn like a charm around the neck. It seemed like the perfect opportunity. After taking a Polaroid of himself, without bees of course, and sending it to Avedon, they arranged to meet in Davis, California, near the home of an entomologist, Norman Gary, who Fisher had asked to assist in the photo session. They all met at a tomato farm, and Avedon set up shop by hanging a huge piece of white paper along the side of a barn. As soon as Fisher saw the packages containing nearly 250,000 bees, he knew there would be a problem. All the bees were adults. This isn't the greatest news. Typically, when you want to make a bee beard or be photographed handling bees, you want to have them when they're only a few days old and haven't yet developed their stingers. But he figured his friend knew what he was doing and went along with the plan. Fisher got into position, and Avedon called for him to take off his shirt. When he did, Avedon also called for him to take off his t-shirt as well, leaving him bare-chested. Fisher protested a bit, but in the end relented. Avedon used a Deerdorf camera with an 8x10-inch negative. He told his subject to stay still because the slightest movement would blur the photo. Gary began by dotting Fisher's chest and head with queen bee pheromones. This was an excretion that marks bees as members of a queen's hive. He then emptied the packages of bees onto boards soaked in sugar water and used a shovel and broom to brush big scoops of insects into the air. The bees picked up the scent and went into action. They circled Fisher's head and formed something like a cloud until landing. The bees squirmed over his head, shoulders, and neck. They tried going up into Fisher's nose, but he snorted them out. Avedon issued a few directions to get what he wanted, telling him to look straight ahead and to avoid smiling. Out of this session, Avedon chose 2 prints he liked. One of them was called The Buddhist and featured Fisher looking stoic and undisturbed. The other was called Christian and featured Fisher grimacing in pain, apparently having been stung some 4 times during the hour-and-a-half session. Fisher's simple gaze into the camera perfectly fit Avedon's new definition of photographic portrait, saying, "I'm looking for people who are surprising, heartbreaking, or beautiful in a terrifying way." This portrait became part of Avedon's American West series, and the photographs were printed up to 4 feet tall with glowing white backgrounds and shadowless lighting. The series was first published in 1985, and believe it or not, created quite the controversy upon viewing. Some people loved the poignancy and renderings depicting rugged individualism, though there were still many that felt the images manipulated or looked down on the subjects involved. This was in particular to the ones featuring disabilities. Avedon's response to the criticism was simply that there is no such thing as inaccuracy in a photograph. All photographs are accurate, none of them is the truth. It's a series that came about at a time in Avedon's life where he was suffering from heart inflammations. The collection, he felt, identified a story within his subjects of their innermost self, a connection Avedon admits would not have happened if his new sense of mortality through severe heart conditions and aging hadn't occurred. And Fisher likes the photo, saying that it was obviously staged, but acknowledged that it is a natural photo with natural bee behavior. These days, Ronald Fisher sells his vacant acres honey at farmers markets. He displays a poster of the portrait and lets customers snap shots of him next to the photograph. Fortunately, claims Fisher, no one has asked for him to remove his shirt again. And though he hasn't tired of the fame, he doesn't look forward to ever making another bee beard again.